DOTG with back. Hashtag boots on the ground with back for what's mine. 100.
Longing is the music of our sphere. The gift of life is never more or less. It starts at any time you like and ends in just a wink. Pass me the lighter, baby.
Yeah, we made it. I just want to get some of this artwork on this building. We just left Ebenezer Creek. Well, thousands of so-called free men perished at the hands of the Union. General Davis orders when he pulled the pontoon boats. So right now we're here at Madison Square. Madison Square. And there's some things here that adds to the story that I wanted to tell you and show you. Show you some of the beautiful square. Cannon. Yeah, but let's go over here. Let's go over here. Hashtag BOTG with back. Let's go over here and see what's going on. That's part of the Revolutionary War, which we'll get to too. But right now, Civil War, we're talking about, this is the Masons, the Scottish Rite, Freemasonry. We talked about that. Let's get to where we come for, right? So, Ebenezer Creek, a lot of people perished. Old elderly, had small kids and women crossing that creek. Some couldn't swim drowned. So let's go and look at this. March to the Sea. We know that was under Sherman. So it says on December 21st, 1864, during the Civil War, U.S. forces under General William T. Sherman, Tecumseh is what T stands for those that don't know, and that's the Indian, Tecumseh. That's another story. Captured Savannah, completing the March to the Sea, a military campaign designed to destroy the Confederacy ability to wage war and break the will of its people to resist. After destroying Atlanta, industrial and businesses, not residential, it says, districts, Sherman's 62,500 men left that city in the middle of November and marched over 250 miles, reaching Savannah by mid-December. Contrary to popular myth, Sherman troops primarily destroyed only property used for waging war: food, railroads, and we know about the necktie. They call it Sherman's neckties. And here's a picture of that. So, train depots, factories, cotton gins, and warehouses. We'll come back to this cotton thing. Like I said, what was the real reason for the Civil War? Well, we're going to see. I'm going to show you with tangibles. This is what I'm saying. Abandoning their supply base. They lived off the land, destroying food they could not consume. They also liberated thousands of enslaved African Americans. We'll look at that too, because we don't see those numbers. So who really were these people? A lot of them had indigenous ties, or they could have been some black Europeans, but maybe some Africans. Right? We know how the story goes. We're here to take the mountain and bust it down to a pebble. We can't go along to get along. We're going to have to really find out what's what and who's who. Sherman's hard hand of war, demoralizing Confederates, hastily the end of slavery and reunifying the Union. So that's the March to the Sea. So what else we got going on? We gonna get that. We gonna get that. Let me walk you around. Let me take you. We're gonna put this thing together our way. Got the church. We're gonna walk over here. It's an important site. All right. Sherman's headquarters. Green Madron Mansion. There it is. Why is this important? Here we go. General William Tecumseh Sherman used this house as headquarters from December 22nd, 1864 until February 1st, 1865. Charles Greene offered the use of his home to General Sherman and his staff. Sherman's chaplain conducted the Christmas services in St. John's Church. Sorry about that, somebody horn going off. The house was built for Greene, a British subject residing in Savannah prior to 1854. The architect was John S. Norris of New York. The house is notable as one of the country's finest examples of residential Gothic revival architecture. The detail of the interior being as a sumptuous as any to be found in the America. Cost of construction of this house in the 1850s totaled $93,000. So we do the numbers on that. Y'all with the math, go ahead and put the numbers in the comment what that would be today in 2020. How much would it cost? Okay, in 1892, it was acquired from the Greene family as a residential by Judge Peter M. Meldrum, designed Georgia's jurist and president of the American Bar Association. So he went to lawyers. He was a lawyer. 1912, 1913. St. John's Episcopal Church acquired the house from the Meldrum heirs in 1943 for use of a parish house and a rectory. The house was purchased partly through public subscription by the citizens of Savannah. The house was declared a National Historic Landmark in 1976. right? Let's walk around and see. We put the tangibles to it, you know. I'm gonna tell you why again, this has to be part of the story, right? Hashtag BOTG, we're back. Okay, let's get some of the sights. Let's get some of what's going on. Right? We got time. I got the tangibles for you to go to the story. So this is the mansion. This is where Sherman stayed at during the Civil War. Right? Nice, $93,500. We going in back? Of course. Before we go in, we got to get this, because it's going to tell the story of why we going into the house. History of Emancipation Special Field Order number 15. So, what happened at Ebenezer Creek, right? What happened there to Stanton was Lincoln's, President Lincoln's war cabinet advisor. So when they found out what happened at Ebenezer, right? I think his name was Colonel Connolly, was writing a letter to the president, and the story leaked and got in the news. So I'm thinking the 40 acres and the mule, I wouldn't say a bad day because people died and it was a tragedy, it was a massacre. But then you get Special Order 15 out of it. So on January 12, 1865, U.S. Secretary of War Edward Stanton and General William T. Tecumseh met here. They met there. That house. We put the tangibles to it. Met at the home of Charles Green, where 20 leaders from Savannah African American churches, including Garrison Frazier, Ulysses L. Hudson, Houston, and William Campbell. The meeting resulted in Sherman's issue of Special Field Orders number 15, which encouraged the enlistment of freemen and also reserves coastal land for Charleston, from Charleston south to Florida St. Johns River for settlement for free families in 40-acre tracts. So each family was going to get 40 acres from Florida to Charleston, South Carolina, right? The Freedmen Bureau Act on March 1865 formalized government aid to free slaves, but made no provisions for land. Made no provisions for the land. After President Lincoln's death, President Andrew Jackson, Democrat, right, revoked Special Order, Field Order number 15, hampering efforts by African Americans to gain economic independence after Emancipation Proclamation. So some people look at the so-called African Americans in North America and say, well, what happened? Well, it seems like you can't get right. This is one of the reasons. Excuse the bell. Yeah, that's my car. Y'all get out my business. Psych. Let's go in. Okay. Family, we are in the Green Mildred house. Wow, this is where the 40 acres and the mule discussion took place in Savannah, Georgia. You can see they got some of the relics still up here. Hashtag BOTG, we're back. We're bringing the tangibles. It's actually, you can see Robert E. Lee. There go your Confederate President, Jefferson. And that money I told you. This is history. We bring the tangibles to the Bible. That different writing, that European ancient writing right there. So this is where the discussion went down. When they asked for Mr. Garrison Frazier. He asked what you want. He asked 12 questions. I'm gonna leave a link for y'all to look at those questions. And when they asked the participating parties, the reverends, it was 20 in here, along with Edwin, and it was also William T. Sherman, right? And Mr. Edwin, you know, the security, War Defense Security Secretary for Lincoln, he asked, and the gentleman stood up, Mr. Frazier, and said, what do you want? They said, we want land, L-A-N-D. He said, we wanted land. This is the place where it took place at. We want land, and we want to be separate from so-called white people. There was one contention in there, 19 people agreed, but one reverend that was from Baltimore, he said we should coexist like he was doing, like what Martin Luther King said, with so-called white people. But at that time, Mr. Frazier and the rest of the congregation said, no, we just want land and to be left alone, and let us till the land till we can make it our own. And then our kids would join the military, the U.S. military. So that's your 40 acres and a mule. But I just wanted to bring you the tangibles. This is where it took place at. This was 1865, family. And now we're in 2022. Hashtag BOTG with back, please. We bring you the tangibles. And I'll give you more to the story. We're gonna go check out the churches where the gentlemen were involved. And I'm gonna leave the link for the list. There go another picture of Robert E. Lee. You're gonna see that glare. Allegedly, some say. But this is it. They got the book, Sherman, the soldier of passion for order. All right, let's go check out some more. 100, 100, 100. Hashtag BOTG with back. Boots on the ground with back for what's mine. Now, where we at? This is First Bryant Baptist Church. Now, when they talk about the people that the 40 acres and the mule that they were signing, they was coming from this church and another church I'm gonna take you to. Let's read the First Bryant Baptist Church. First Bryant dates its founding to the Constitution of the Ethiopian Church of Jesus Christ under Reverend Andrew Bryant in January 1788, making it one of the nation's oldest African-American Baptist churches, known later as First Colored Church, First African and Third African. The congregation took the name First Bryant Baptist in 1867. Constructed on the first church building began here in 1793 on purchased property by Reverend Bryant. We're gonna talk more about Reverend Bryant. The current building was completed in 1874. The First Bryant ministry included Garrison Frazier and Ulysses Houston. Remember, they was the ones that was in the meeting, attended the nearby meeting of local black leaders with General Sherman in January 1865. That resulted in special field order number 15, promising confiscated coastal lands to free slaves, right? Now that was over 600 acres that they wanted to get. In the 20th century, civil rights leader W.W. Law, shout out to W.W. Law, he did a lot of civil rights leading down here in Savannah, Georgia, and he met with Martin Luther King. Taught Sunday school at the First Bryant for many years. All right? So we gonna keep going. We're gonna put this thing together in real time. It's the church. Let's look. It says First Bryant Baptist Church, Savannah, Georgia, constituted 1788. Yamacraw. Y'all remember Yamacraw Village? If you don't know, I did a video on Yamacraw, so let's go get it. It's called Tomochichi, Musgrove, and Oglethorpe. Talking about when James Oglethorpe came here in 1733, and they established what is now known as Savannah, Georgia right now. Okay, one of the, it say Yamacraw Gullah Geechee Corridor, one of the oldest Baptist churches in America. We bring the tangibles. That's what I do. We bring the tangibles. I know some people looking at the Gullah Geechee, and it's a different build on that. Some say these people are, Gullah Geechee are indigenous. Ogeechee is the Ogeechee River. I know I'm side noting, but since they got it up there. And then we're saying Gullah is the people. That's what some say. If you Gullah Geechee, salute to you, and you know your history. I'm just saying. Now we go back here, Andrew Bryan again. Andrew Bryan was born at Goose Creek, South Carolina, about 1716. Now we know in Goose Creek, they had the Goose Creek men that was coming through the Bahamas, coming up, and you know the Goose Creek men were into slavery. They was enslaving indigenous people, sending them out. So do your history on the Goose Creek men. I'm not saying he was that, but that's just where he was born. But I'm just saying, since we seeing the Goose Creek men, he came to Savannah as a slave, and here he was baptized by the Negro missionary, the Reverend George Leah. We gonna see these people, well, pictures. In 1788, Leah excavated with the Baptists, with the British. In 1782, at the close of the American Revolution, and Bryan took up his work. He preached at Yamacraw and Brampton plantations. On January 20th, 1788, the Reverend Abraham Marshall, white, and the Reverend Jesse Peter, colored. So it's saying that Abraham Marshall is saying he was white. Does that mean he had pale skin, or does that mean he owned land? Because we know, digging on the history, sometimes white can mean that you was a landowner, but it says colored here. So just throwing that out there, right? So there you go right there. I got the still for you to continue reading. We're going to continue to keep it moving, putting this thing together. Civil War and 40 Acre and a Mule in Georgia, Savannah, Georgia. Back for what's mine. Let's keep rolling. Right now we in Franklin Square. Why are we in Franklin Square back? Because remember we talked about this is Civil War and 40 Acres and a Mule in Savannah, Georgia point of view. So the 40 Acres and a Mule, you know, was down here. And we talked about the two churches. Talked about the two churches and the people that were involved in signing the 40 Acres and the Mule, right? So we had got the first church. Well, that's something I'm gonna show y'all later. That's for something else. I showed y'all the first church, the Bryant, Andrew Bryant, First African Baptist. Now the participants in the 40 Acres and the Mule, this is some participants of the other church. This is First African Baptist Church, erected 1859. You know, I think they're doing some remodeling in there, because you know I'll take you in there, you know how I do it. Well, we can read up on what they have out here. First African Baptist Church, First African Baptist Church, FABC, traces its roots to 1773. Now 1773, we know that's when James Oglethorpe came to Savannah. And the organization of the congregation at nearby Brampton plantations by Reverend George Leah. And George Leah, like I said, he was one of the ones that was in the meeting with Sherman talking about the 40 acres and the mule, right? And they say under the leadership of Reverend Andrew C. Marshall, third pastor of this church, the congregation obtained this property constructed on Savannah's gray brick by congrats, both free and enslaved. So that's how you go, you're free people of color and you're enslaved. But don't let the color thing fool you. It was more than this so-called black people that were so-called enslaved, or if they want to use indentured servitude. The current building was completed in 1859. Reverend Emmanuel K. Love, sixth pastor, an advocate for African American education and civil rights, was instrumental in establishing today's Savannah State University. Savannah State University, shout out to my alma mater. Yeah, back got a degree. But they ain't taught me what I needed to know, just to keep it all the way funky with you. Yeah, keep it 100. Anyway, shout out to Savannah State University, SSU. Go Tigers. Reverend Dr. Ralph Mark Gilbert, 13th pastor, was a predominant leader of the NAACP. The NAACP, so people have their opinions about that organization. And the rival of the Savannah chapter in 1940s. U.S. Representative Adam Clay Powell of Harlem and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. are among the noteworthy speakers hosted here. So yeah, I told y'all Martin Luther King Jr. was in Savannah, and we shouted out WW Law, Mr. WW Law. Got to make sure we do that. Now the FABC, First African Baptist Church, is one of the oldest continuous operate African American churches in North America. Right? So here we go. And along with the other church, like I say, Bryant, these churches used to be together, then they split. It was a split. And some say, y'all can see that. That's Reverend, I'm gonna get you a better picture. Some say it was, they split because a third party or a third person came in with another teacher. And so they was like, we can't be together. You know, it's down here at the square. Again, bringing the tangibles to you know. Like I said, we're gonna check out that, do some history on that. I'll give you one clue. Those are Haitian soldiers. Shout out to Haiti. Stop by saying. All right, let's walk around, catch this other thing. Hashtag BOTG, we're back. Boots on the ground, we're back. We talked about Mr. WW Law. Mr. Wesley Wallace Law. Also gonna show you this picture, but you know we put boots on the ground. So we bringing it to his grave. Salute to you, sir. Right? We're gonna see some other graves while we out here. We in Laurel Grove South. You see? He said, I was the result of a composite contribution. I tried not to have a big ending, but rather to live my life doing the best that I could each day, because a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. A man is poor not because he doesn't have money, but because he doesn't have enough vision in his head and heart. That's Mr. W.W. Law. Martin Luther King Jr. came down and consulted with this man. Salute to you, sir. You got his family back here. Salute, Queens. The meeting for the 40 acres and the mule. As I continue to walk on, we still at Laurel Groves. This is the so-called black side of the grave. They have a Laurel Grove 1 and a Laurel Grove 2. 1, they say it's for the so-called white people. 2, where we at now, is the so-called black people. There are also Confederate soldiers out here on 1 and 2. The so-called white side, the so-called black side. Now, this is what I wanted to show you. That's Reverend Andrew Bryant. We've been to his church. You got Reverend Henry Cunningham, Reverend Andrew Marshall. These gentlemen were part of 40 Acres and a Mule, or they church was. So now let's go over here. Back bring the tangibles. This is a grave site. Reverend Henry Cunningham. Right? Put his picture up. Then you have Reverend Andrew Cox Marshall, pastor of the First African Baptist Church. That's the one with the red doors. All right. Both of these guys were pastors there. Right. And again, this is the grave site for Reverend Andrew Bryant. Andrew Bryant, the church that's in Yamacraw Village that we seen. You also have Deacon Sampson Bryant, First Bryant Baptist Church. Right? So there you go. Just bringing the tangibles on people that were involved during the Civil War, or their churches were involved and members were involved. We're just putting this thing together. Civil War and 40 Acres and a Mule from Savannah point of view. Let's keep going. Hashtag BOTG, we're back. We made it to Bonaventure Cemetery. This is Bonaventure Cemetery. You might have seen it in a lot of movies, but we're not out here for the movie. We're out here for the real life. And there's a lot of Confederate soldiers in these grounds. You know, a lot of Confederate soldiers that fought here in Savannah. One we have a John Wheaton, and we have Wheaton Street. Shout out to the east side of Savannah, Wheaton Street. You know, he was a commander in the Confederate Army. And we have the Richard Anderson, Mr. Richard Anderson. That'd be Robert H. Anderson. I want to make sure Robert H. Anderson also was a brigadier general for the Confederate soldiers. And many, many other names. The mayor at that time was Richard Arnold, Richard D. Arnold. There's a school after him right now. But so Savannah was given up without a shot. That's really the story I want to talk about while we looking at these sacred grounds. So Savannah was given up without a shot fired. And the mayor at that time, like I said, was Richard Arnold. And here's his picture, well, a depiction of him. So after we looked at part 1 and 2, we saw that the forts were taken down. Fort Jackson, Fort Pulaski, and Fort McAllister. And those were supposed to be the defense, to defend Savannah, because like I say, all the money, if you ask me what was going on. So Savannah, the port city had to be defended. Even when those 3 fell, Savannah also had 10,000 men, right? Soldiers. But once once Sherman let the mayor and the commanding officer here in Savannah know, okay, I got you surrounded. We coming in to take Savannah. Either you give it up or we're going to take it. And basically, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, that's what happened. So the mayor say, well, okay, we don't want Savannah burnt. You know, the port city need to be still thriving, you know. So the mayor, like I said, Richard Arnold, sent a letter, you know, and told Sherman and the Union Army, hey, this is what we'll do. I'll give up Savannah without a shot fired, as long as you can promise, you know, so you don't burn Savannah. So that what happened. So in December 22, right before Christmas, according to the National Archives records I have, I'm gonna let you see it right now. You can go look it up for yourself. Sherman let Lincoln know, okay, I got Savannah and there's a Christmas gift for you. And I also have 25 bales, 25,000 bales of cotton. Wow, 25,000 bales of cotton. He said he gave to Lincoln along with Savannah as a Christmas gift. Man, what are you talking about, a gift? Or was it really 45,000 cotton bales and Sherman kept some from him and the crew? I don't know, I'm speculating on that. But hey, you never know, you know? But so that's how Savannah got taken without a shot fired. So we go into the house, we go into the mansion, the Green Mansion, and we saw that. And then you get into your 40 acres and a mule, right? And I think it was Edwin Stanton. It seemed like it was really his idea. And Sherman just gets the credit for it. But we know Edwin Stanton was the war secretary for Lincoln. And after what happened, like we said, at Ebenezer Creek, right? After those people were left to die, then, you know, the 40 acres and a mule comes, I'm guessing, to reconcile that, right? But what happened? What happened? So this is over 400,000 acres that were the Sea Islands that we're gonna give to the so-called free slaves. But see, there was only 40,000 slaves that this was going to. It was only 40,000 that this was going to, right? So they get the land, right? They get the land on the Sea Islands. This is over 600,000 acres of land, right? And it's crazy that I say that number. I apologize, I take that back. Over 400,000 acres. I'm thinking about the number of casualties that they said was in the Civil War, since I'm at the graveyard, and that was over 600,000 people that participated and died, and you had more that were injured also. So forgive me for that. So 400,000 acres, that's the Sea Islands. That's from Florida all the way up to South Carolina. That's your coastal waters. And that's where your money at. That's where your money at, wherever the water is, that's where your money at. Like I showed y'all the water earlier, you know? And this would have been, they say today, it would have been over $600 billion, you know? So 40,000 people, families would have got it, over $600 billion today. You're talking about changing lives. You're talking about what happened. Something like that devastated generations and generations and generations. Some say, okay, so Lincoln gets assassinated. They say John Wilkes Booth assassinated him. They say John Wilkes Booth was an actor. I don't know what happened to the guard that was supposed to be guarding Lincoln, right? I mean, how you get close to a president like that? Not saying it never happened before, but I'm just saying. They said the guard was outside the door. Somehow, so-called John Wilkes Booth got in, shot Lincoln in the head. Crowd goes screaming. He jumps off the deck and runs away. And then y'all can continue to follow that story, right? So Lincoln is assassinated, and then his successor come, Andrew Johnson, right? like I said, which is the Democrat. They said Andrew Johnson was a Southern sympathizer. So what he did, he reversed Special Order 15, 40 acres, and say he gave it back to the planters. That's how the story goes. He gave it back to the planters, right? And so out of 40,000 though, 40,000 so-called free slaves, right? And I like to say so-called or enslaved people, right? I'm gonna start using that word, enslaved or POWs, start using that. So now Andrew Johnson reverses Special Order 15. But it said that 2,000 so-called enslaved people did get the land and still had it. I wonder who those people were. Just something, you know, you're doing on history. Questions come, you start digging and asking questions, you know. So it was 40,000, only 2,000 end up still holding on to the 40 acres along the coastline. Like I say, the coastline, especially in this area, that's where all your seafood, there's so much money, so much trade. It's the ports, right? Where your water, that's where the money at. And sometimes you look at that, you start understanding gentrification. So that devastated family. Like I said, they said a day over $630 billion that would equate to. I'm thinking trillions because it's on the coastline. You had all the ports, money. You know, that could have changed a lot of lives, a lot of families that were deserving, if you ask me. But another side note, dealing with the Civil War, it's not in this area, but dealing with the Union Army again. Once again, we know what happened with them with the massacre of Ebenezer. The Union turned their back. And then we go down to Natchez, Mississippi. Shout out to the MISSIPPI. Yeah, shout out to them. But, you know, in Natchez, at the end of the Civil War, when they freed the so-called enslaved people, you know, y'all know about the Devil's Punch Bowl. Y'all know where I was going? You know where I was going. Devil's Punch Bowl, where the Union freed the people, but they said that the population was so big that some of the citizens, I guess, of that area wanted the Union to do something about it. So, as the story goes, heavy. Yeah, getting the Union, what's going on? You're supposed to be coming to free and help people, and these stories keep popping out. But I'm not saying it was just them either. But, okay, so Devil's Punch Bowl, it take 40,000, it's saying in 1 year, 20,000 people died within 1 year. That's the way I'm reading the story. What they did was have the men, this the Union Army doing this, the one that came from the north to help the south, right? This the Union Army that said allegedly did this. We looking at the facts though. We looking at the truth over facts though. Let's just find out. So they come down, they make the men do harsh labor. They build a wall around the women and the children. The women and the children are encased in this wall, right? And they die. They say the conditions were terrible. Disease running around, a lot of died off smallpox. I'm gonna give you some names that you can research. The researchers that said they down there, they hear their names right here. And they died of smallpox. Sound like the indigenous story of the Americas. Disease and famine killing them off. That's why I say enslaved people. I don't call them slaves. But, so, and then the men, when the men die, they said they gave the shovels to the others and told them to bury them where they at. And so, this is, like I say, this is the end of Civil War, 1865, in Natchez, Mississippi area. And another catastrophe. So y'all read up more on that. I really thank y'all for staying with me. It's been a ride. You know what I'm saying? I did it the best I can do, try to give you the tangibles. And thank you for riding back for what's mine. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. There's 3 parts we did with this. And y'all was there for every second. And I do appreciate y'all. I know my style is unorthodox, but it's the way I do it. But learn from the video, enjoy. Any comments you want to put down, please put down. You know, any comments you got or questions, you know, and I answer to the best of my ability dealing with this area. Again, 48 Acres in the Mule, Civil War, Savannah, Georgia. We're gonna pour out libations for everybody that was involved, Natchez, everybody that was in my city. So, with that said, hashtag BOTG, we're back. Y'all knew that was coming. 100, I'm Ghost.